Hello, Menachem and Elisha. It's been a long time since we've spoken and since I've sent any shiurim. Today is really not going to be a shiur. It's going to be a little bit of a hakdama. I just want to get back in the flow. So it's going to be hakdama to certain ideas, some of which I've spoken about with you, Menachem, before, but I'd like to do it in a more structured way so that we'll have the right terminology as we walk further. I'm going to do it in the context of this week's parsha, and the parsha of Tzitzis. Okay? When it comes up, when the question of Lo Taturu Acharei Levavchem Ba'acharei Einechem comes up, the trufa, the fix, the medicine for Lo Taturu Acharei Levavchem Ba'acharei Einechem is not Kabbalas al Malchut Shamayim. It's not knowing what's right. The solution is tzitzis, and let's understand what's going on. Let's do a little bit of akadama, and then we'll come back and understand it. We've spoken about this before. There's two ways that we think. There's veyadat hayom in the front of our head, and there's v'hashevota el vavecha. When we say v'hashevota el vavecha, obviously the leiv is not what's happening in its heart. It's the way that we think and we act when it's affected by also our leiv, when it's affected by what we love, when it's affected by what we're scared of, when it's affected by what we want, it's affected by our ta'avot, it's affected by our ritzonot, our ahavot, all of the different things which we consider part of the lev, that also affects the way we think, and that also affects the way we react. And Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this way. He created us in a way that we don't have to make a cheshbon every time, but there are certain things which we do al derech tiv'i, that we react in a certain way. To a certain extent, this is a machlokes between the Hasidim and the Litaim. In this struggle between, there's something which we think out and we want, but there's also a way that we naturally react and interact, or we think intuitively, both in intuitivi, and sometimes there's a struggle between that. To the Litaim, to the Nefesh HaChaim, to the Rambam to a certain degree, but this we'll have to explain more at another time. A person is nimdad, a person is measured, the godless of a person is to what extent I can totally control myself with the Seichel Ha'iyuni, with the front of my head. To what extent am I able to be mitgaber and act according to my Seichel Ha'iyuni in terms of what I want over my reaction? Okay? According to the Rambam, any action which has already become a habit is no longer a sign of me being a ben Adam. Me being a ben Adam is the more that I act based on how I'm thinking things out, that shows the godless of an Adam. In Chassidut, it's not that way. If we look at the Balatanya, okay, that would qualify as a tzaddik tzaddik veralo, a person who's able to be mitgaber, and despite the fact that his ratzon is to do something else or do something specific, the fact that he's mitgaber, that's called tzaddik veralo. Tzaddik v'tovlo, according to Chassidut, and not just Tanya, not just Chabad, but Chassidut in general, the godless of a person is measured to what extent I've managed to change my leiv. To what extent is my leiv, am I not fighting anymore? What the Ramchal, the Lashon the Ramchal would use of nikiyut, of tahara. To what point do I automatically already talk, already react in a way which doesn't need gvura? In Litayut, gvura is the ultimate midah. In Chassidut, changing something so that I don't need gvura, transforming myself, that is the ultimate tzad of a ben Adam. And Musar is going to fall somewhere in the middle. But both are being mityaches to two parts. We have the veyadat hayom, what I think, what I know, when I think through, but what the Rambam calls the seichel iyuni. And we have the other side, what happens in my seichel dimyoni, what happens in my seichel which thinks on its own, which acts on its own. Those are two parts of our seichel which we're going to have to be mityaches to. Okay? And this is a model which I want us to start to work on when we start working in other areas of chinuch and other models. But let me come back to tzitzit for a second. Kabbalat ol malchut shamayim is something I do with my seichel iyuni. It's something I declare. It's something that I'm matzhir. It's something that I say I figured out and it is true. V'zeh emet. When I'm sitting there with lo tatu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem, that seichel iyuni comes, the parasha of Tzitzit says, is not enough. Therefore, the response to something which is happening and affecting my seichel dimyoni, that I suddenly want something, that I see something which is moshech, the response has to be talking the language of seichel dimyoni. And to that we have tzitzit which says, wait, now I want your tziyur, I want your mind to now go to other places. There's an old rule in avodas hamidos. Any habit which we have, any automatic thoughts, any automatic feelings, any automatic actions which we have, sometimes we call it habits, but habits of thoughts, or habits of feelings, or any habits which we have, you can never remove a habit. You can only replace it. Okay? אי אפשר להסיר הנהגה, אפשר להחליף הנהגה. אי אפשר להסיר מחשבה, אפשר להחליף מחשבה. אי אפשר להסיר רגש, אפשר להחליף רגש. That's why we're going to see a lot of midos which we're going to work on. We have so much we struggle with, not because we're not sure that we don't want them, but because we're not sure what we do want. We just know what we don't want. So comes in this parasha, it says, you have a Mashiach, the way we're metaking the Mashiachas Halev, Mashiachas Ha'ayin, is with a new re'iyah. That your mind suddenly starts to go to Tcheles, and starts to go to Dinyan of Kisei HaKavod, and Shechina, and that our mind starts thinking other things. What gave the Gevura to Yosef HaTzadik, when he came into a chat Nisayon, was not doing a cheshbon at that point of what's right and what's wrong and whether it works and whether it doesn't work. What happens at that point was seeing the Ono Shel Yaakov Avinu, and that being machnas, when you see a certain thing, being machnas a certain yira, a certain bachal, a certain awareness. This is not taking away the role of Seichel Iyuni. Seichel Iyuni is where we decide what is wrong and what is right, but then we have to use the kelim which talk to the Seichel Dimyoni. Okay? This is an introduction. An introduction that in everything we talk about from here on in, when it comes to midos, when it comes to avoda, we're always going to talk about the kelim of Seichel Iyuni, what we're thinking, what our cheshbonos are, what we want to try to get to, and then we're going to talk about the lashon, the sfat, ha-seichel ha-dimyoni. The safar, what are the type of things which help us create new habits after we've decided that we want a new habit? What are the things which help us create new thoughts? What is it, why is it that a person, before he goes to sleep, is sure that he wants to wake up? And that 3 hours after, after first Seder, he regrets not having waken up, and he's sure that he wanted to wake up. But when he wake up in the morning, there's all sorts of cheshbonos, their thoughts. All sorts of cheshbonos of, maybe it's better for me to go to a later minyan. Maybe I'll be able to concentrate better. Okay? Why is it that a person says, beforehand he says, you know what, I'm not going to have any dessert. But when the Ragalach is sitting in front of him, he thinks differently. He thinks, you know what, instead I'll walk back the long way from the Beis Medrash. And that'll work off, that extra ragalach. Or not so bad, or the cheshbonos are different. The seichel hadimioni makes us make different cheshbonos. Now the truth is we're going to go through the different type of cheshbonos. And this is all chokhmas ha'adam. If we understand there's different ways that we think. There are different things that cause us to think different ways. Or to react different ways. Or to develop different habits. But we are the balabatim of ourselves. But the balabatim, not just by thinking something, but by being mechashbe in this, what the Gura means when he talks in Sefer Mishlei, of bringing orma, that we have to be arum b'darchei hayetzer. We have to talk the svat hayetzer. Yetzer is not something bad. We have to talk the safa of Ritzonos. Okay? Bezrat Hashem. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to continue after this Haggadama and take us to different areas of chinuch, take us to different areas of midos, different areas of avoda, but always in tune to both veyadat hayom and the v'hashevota el avavecha. Okay? Bezrat Hashem, we will continue, not in a long time, but in a short time.